Hello and welcome to When They Popped. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Mary, and today we are so excited to welcome a very special guest who was truly a staple of the Y2K era and the early 2000s pop culture. In 2003, our guest captured America's hearts as the runner-up on American Idol Season 2, went on to sell millions of albums, and is truly one of the most beloved figures from the golden age of reality TV. From Invisible to Measure of a Man, his voice became the soundtrack to our lives during our favorite era of pop culture. But that's just the beginning of his story. Since then, he's conquered Broadway, run for Congress not once but twice, became a father, and had made his return to music on his own terms. Clay Aiken, welcome to When They Popped.
Thank you for having me. Of course, my dog's going to act like a fool right now. Can you see him?
No, but we welcome dogs.
I don't know what he's doing. All of a sudden, he just decided to...
This is a dog-friendly space.
He wanted some attention, too.
What's your dog's name?
Harlem, and now he knows we're talking about him. So all my dogs have always been named after towns that I've either lived in or been from or something like that. And so when Santa brought him, I was living in New York, and my son wanted to name him New York City. And I said, I don't think I'm going to be shouting that in the park. So we compromised on a neighborhood. So he heard his name, and he is staring right at me.
Does he know how iconic his dad is?
He could not care less.
He's like, give me the treats. Well, Clay, let's get into it. We are When They Popped. We're all about Y2K pop culture. Of course, we want to get into that Y2K mindset with you. So we have a few rapid fire questions for you.
God, no. About what? About the 2000s? What do we call them?
The early aughts, the naughty oddies, if you will.
Oh, the oddies. Okay. I don't know anything about them. I don't know anything about pop culture in that era.
It's not like a quiz. It's more like questions about you in that era, what you remember. It'll just get you in the headspace.
Let's see.
So right off the noggin, whatever comes to mind first, can you recall your favorite Idol performance that you did?
Oh, that I did?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. I thought they were all good. No.
They're all perfect.
I loved To Love Somebody, which we did on Bee Gees Week. I liked that one. I liked Somewhere Out There because I loved that song as a kid. Those would probably be the top two.
Amazing. See, you're doing great, Clay.
Oh, thanks. I didn't get that one wrong? Okay,
no wrong answers here. Okay, the next one is, where's the weirdest place that a fan has recognized you?
That a fan has recognized me?
Like, have you ever been like, oh my God, not now?
Yeah, like when they were climbing over the fence into my yard, that's weird. Not now. That I would say would be one. The weirdest place, though? I mean, that's got to be the weirdest place they recognize me, but I think they clearly were not only seeing me, but maybe hearing voices too. So this was a weird one. Actually, right after Idol was over, I went to London, maybe sometime that summer, to record some stuff for the album. And while I was walking down the street in London, and I kind of loved being in London because at that time, Ruben and I couldn't walk anywhere. Everybody knew who we were. But in London, nobody really knew who we were. And so I thought that was kind of cool being there. And I was walking down the street in London by myself, which was fun. And lo and behold, two girls came running up and knew who I was. And they were from South Africa. And they had been watching the show back in South Africa. They were visiting London themselves. And they were so excited to meet me. And they said, no, don't tell us who wins, because they were behind and they didn't get it on time there. So don't tell us who wins. We're still watching it. And so I said, I do. And then I walked away. So they still got a surprise.
That's a great story. Okay, how about this one? A Y2K trend or fashion choice that you regret. So maybe a certain style of pants, frosted tips.
I don't think I chose any of my own clothes between the years of 2003, through the whole 2000s, really. So I don't know that I could say I regret. I mean, I was lucky the stuff that I wore in that period was chosen for me by professionals. I had a stylist at one point, though, who I think he was trying to start a trend. I don't know. And he had me I'd wear a regular button-up shirt and a tie, and he'd have me tuck my tie into one of the holes of the shirt to kind of like make it looked a little bit like a cravat, or it looked like it had been cut off. And I always thought, well, that didn't catch on. So that one was weird, I guess. I think it's on the cover of my book, too. I think my tie is tucked into my shirt on the cover of my book. Yeah, that was an odd one. But all the other ones, the spiky hair, I didn't choose. And I mean, it sort of became a thing for a few years there. So I can't say that I regret any of them because I didn't choose any of them.
I mean, that's a fair point.
We wanted to ask you about your American Idol glow up, so that's coming. If we
What do you mean?
Makeover.
Makeover? I thought I looked the same the whole way through.
The highlights were highlighting.
And we loved them. Okay, so on the flip side, what about a Y2K trend or fashion choice that you wouldn't mind if it came back? Like, I would love a flip phone. I would love to be a little more offline
I have a flip
today.
phone. I have
Me
a flip
too.
phone. I was a big phone nerd. I would love to get rid of smartphones. Can we go back to that? I was a huge phone geek, and every time I'd go overseas, they always had different phones than we did. They had fancier ones. There were phones that didn't flip so much as they tilted open like that. It was very strange. And I would always come back with more because you could just, change the SIM card out. And we weren't really saving many numbers because texting was not too much of a thing. So I would go back to that time. Can we bring back dumb phones?
Yeah, like a Razor.
Let's do that. That's what I have now. I have the Razor, but it has the smart screen on it.
Razors are
It's got
living my dream.
It's the full smartphone. It just folds in half so I can hang up on people with fury.
Yes, I love that.
I miss snapping it shut and then throwing it and not being afraid of it shatter.
Yes.
I love
really
it.
into that. Put a button on that conversation.
Closing it in fury. I love that. All right. The next one is if you could collaborate with any artist from the Y2K era, who would it be?
Let me think here. So the Y2K era that I remember, the 03, 04, 05 period when my first album was out and I was promoting it, was a lot of sort of hip hop, R. Kelly type stuff. So, I'm not going to collaborate with R. Kelly, for sure.
We're going to have to cut that part out.
And then the pop world was very kind of grunge, Avril Lavigne, Fifi Dobson, those folks. So it'd probably be one of the women in country like Faith Hill or something like that who were like great vocalists.
Love. Oh, that would be an incredible collab. On that note, is there a song from that era, the 90s, the 2000s even, that just takes you back? You can put that on and it's just, you go back to that time.
Well, I mean, obviously the songs of mine certainly give me flashbacks. I don't put them on very often, though, so that won't answer the question. Gosh, let me think. I don't remember a big chunk of anything because, unlike I think most artists who kind of have a bit of a trajectory to their career, they work a little bit, they work hard, and then they go on a break for a bit and put a new album. From 2000 to 2008, I was like nonstop busy. I was just talking to somebody a few weeks ago about, what show was it? Oh, Gilmore Girls, that I didn't watch. I mean, I don't know anything about it. And that's because it was on during that time period. And I was so cut off. I was so busy. I didn't know what was going on in the pop world. So all I can think of, something like Skater Boy. I mentioned Avril Lavigne.
Perfect.
Before. That song was a huge hit in that period. And I haven't heard it in years. So imagine if I heard it. Pink had a few songs that were really big back then too. Maybe Skater Boy would be the one that would immediately give me flashbacks.
Amazing. Well, let's go back to that explosive period that you just talked about. Take us back to 2003, the very beginning. How did you find yourself auditioning for American Idol, the show that would change your life?
I auditioned because I had not even, again, wasn't pop culture aware even prior to Idol. I had not seen season 1, and I went back to Charlotte for the school year, and one of the parents of one of the kids that I worked with had watched with her daughter, and they were like, "Oh, you should go sing, you should go audition for this." And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. That just wasn't in my plan. Ironically, despite all evidence to the contrary, I am not a very competitive person. So the idea of being in competition was just not a thing for me. And so the only reason I did it was because they had an audition in Charlotte that year. And she was like, "It's in Charlotte. It's down at Bojangles or wherever it was." And I said, "Okay, fine, I'll go." And I showed up that morning, didn't have any idea of what I was going to sing, had no plan. I actually stole my song from the person who was in line behind me. I had no plan of what to sing, and they had been singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow for like 3 hours in line. And when I got in there, I was like, "Sorry, somewhere over." I stole their song. So I auditioned in Charlotte and I got cut. And then I was like, "Oh, hell no. I'm not a competitive person. I really am not, but there's nothing that motivates me more than being told no. And so when I got told no, I said, let's do it. And so I drove the next week to Atlanta and I auditioned again, mostly out of stubbornness. And then I made it through in Atlanta and got cut again in the top 32, had to come back for wild card, and then got cut again at the end. So got cut 3 times in that show.
I mean, what do you remember from being inside that audition? I guess the second time where you were more feeling the pressure, like looking at Paula, Randy, Simon, like, what was that like? Especially not
so
seeing
you
the
don't
show
audition for those judges at first. You don't see them. You go into a room. It's like a cattle call situation where 5 people walk in and you've got a number. That's all you're known by. And you sing the song that you've prepared. Now, I wasn't prepared in Charlotte. I was over-prepared in Atlanta. And I had 5 or 6 songs that I had thought through and thought, I'm going to sing one of these. And I stepped in and I stepped up and couldn't remember any of them. I had been totally prepared for one of them, could not remember any of them, opened my mouth, and the only thing I could think of was the theme song to Perfect Strangers. Remember that show with Balky and Cousin Larry? I sang the theme song to Perfect Strangers. And I stepped back into my spot in line and thought, oh my God, I have driven down here and camped out for 2 nights and then completely screwed myself because I sang the theme song to Perfect Strangers. And thank God, the producer who was in the room at the time, he said, 5230, that was the number I was wearing. You stay, everybody else, you can go. And he looked at me, he was like, what the hell was that? I said, oh my God, I don't know. I'm so sorry. He said, do you know anything else? And thankfully, by that time, I had pulled it together and remembered I had come prepared and I sang Always and Forever. He said, okay, tomorrow, sing that. Don't sing the other one. And he let me through. And so I went through, went through the executive producer. It's not till the 3rd audition that you get in front of the judges. And Paula wasn't there. Paula was out the night that the week. She didn't come to Atlanta. So it was just me and Randy and Simon. And before you go in, back then, they would come, like Randy and Simon come into the room and they essentially tell you, like, they build you up. I don't know if you remember how much you remember the auditions for Idol in the early days. You know, there were some people who were bad and who had confidence that they did not deserve to have. And it's because they were told to have confidence. I remember verbatim, Simon came into the room and said, Jennifer Lopez can't sing, but she's a star. He said, we're looking for a star. We're looking for someone who has that confidence and that swagger. And so everybody was pumped up and told, when you go in there, you better act like you are the best in the world. And so I walked in and I didn't have that in me still. I actually jinxed myself. If you go back and watch the video, he says, so you think you're the American Idol? I said, yeah, I saw it. He said, you think you're as good as them? I said, yeah, I think I could have been up there. Number 1, number 2, maybe.
Manifested the wrong way.
Totally jinxed myself, right? And so I went in and then the rest is history, right? I got through and I had not told anybody I was going to audition. So I finally was able to tell people because I didn't want to tell people and then get cut again and feel stupid. So I didn't have to feel as stupid that time.
I mean, how amazing. I remember your audition, Clay. We were rooting for you from the very beginning. So what do you remember about the judges? I mean, Polly, Rand, and Simon also kind of became these superstars in their own right, along with American Idol. When you finally were in front of them, do you have any memories of them from that time?
We didn't really see them very often. We saw them almost as much as the audience saw them. The only times that we saw them beyond what was on TV, we would do a dress rehearsal. Yes, they would come to the dress rehearsal. We would do a camera blocking, and they had stand-ins during the camera blocking, but then they would do the dress rehearsal, and they would sit through the dress rehearsal and listen. And they did that because that way they would be prepared for what they were going to say later on the live show. They had already seen us perform. They knew what we were going to do. They could get their comments together. So if you half-assed it during the dress rehearsal, which I often did, and then you gave your full at the performance, they were a little thrown, didn't know what to say. So we saw them during dress rehearsal. And then on Wednesday nights, after the person had been cut, they would usually walk backstage and say goodnight to everybody and give a hug to the person who was leaving. So we really didn't get to see them very much. We saw pretty much what you did. Now, in subsequent years after the show was over and they were not, I think they had to keep a certain distance, right? They needed to be impartial and couldn't be friendly with contestants. So in later years, we got to know them. And, I have, over the years, I love them all, even Simon. Although I have been watching back the videos. I haven't watched my performances in 20 years maybe. I mean, it's been a long time. And, when we were on the show, there was no YouTube. Didn't exist. So here's something that you guys should talk about on the Y2K podcast. Because there is a period, and I read this somewhere, I can't remember where, maybe it was in a dream, but it's true. There's a period in between like 2001 and 2007 or 2008 where they say that we've lost a lot of our records because prior to 2001, people took pictures on regular cameras, with the windy thing, and you'd have to take the film to the drugstore, to the 24-hour photo or whatever. My mom always mailed it off and we got it sent back. And we'd have hard copies of photos, right? And then obviously after 2008, everybody had an iPhone or they were taking pictures in their cameras and it went to the cloud, this magical place. But in between 2001 and 2007, we had those digital cameras where you'd take the picture, you could see it right away. But if you wanted to keep the picture, you had to go to your computer, you had to plug it in, you had to wait for it to zoom over to your computer. And then it stayed on your computer, which meant that when you got a new computer, if you didn't do the trouble of taking them off, so many people lost pictures. If you go back, I bet you don't. Maybe you do. I don't have a lot of pictures between those years. And video was the same way because prior to that, we could record on VHS. And after a certain point, we had the internet and the cloud. But in that middle ground, we had TiVo. And everything was on a DVR, which meant we kept it on our TV. We could watch it over and over, but you couldn't get that shit off the DVR. So until just not long ago, there was no access to our season of Idol. So I just found it not too long ago and have been watching it because I've been putting them up on Instagram and whatnot. And Simon was an asshole.
He was brutal.
I didn't know.
He was brutal.
So no, I'm talking about to me.
Do you think it was good that you didn't watch season 1? So you didn't know what you were walking into? Do you feel like that gave you some protection?
No, maybe. Although, even if I had watched season 1, I would not have expected him to be mean to me. I mean, I may not be the best singer in the world, but I wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't have expected he was going to tell me to, fire my vocal coach. But he said some mean shit to me. And I've been watching it back going, damn, how did I not end up in therapy? I don't get it. I guess I just blocked it out in the moment. I was so nervous on stage, or I was watching and everybody that season everybody got punched some, a little bit, except for Ruben. So I've watched it back and thought, holy crap, he was a hell of a lot meaner than I remembered. You couldn't get away with that now.
No way.
It's a shame. It's a shame. I feel like I'm better for it. I would go back and he told me one week, actually, I think the week that just got posted on Instagram, because I'm doing like Throwback Thursdays every Thursday. So I think it's the week he told me that he preferred me when he closed his eyes and said, because I made funny faces. And the next week, let me tell you what, I came out smiling. I didn't make a face the whole week. I would learn from it. I tried to grow. And they don't let the kids grow anymore. Everybody's wonderful. We're going to clap for you all. You're a star, even when you're not.
But it's funny knowing that he would hype you guys up so much and now knowing how he would tear people down during the auditions.
Well, see, now the hyping up was Nigel Lithgow.
Oh, okay. Okay. So the producer would come in and then...
He's the genius of reality TV. I mean, if you go back and look at the methods that were used, not just on Idol, but on So You Think You Can Dance, and really many of the biggest hits. Nigel, I think, is probably the most brilliant producer of any of them because he knew how to... So we had to do in Hollywood Week, all the guys had to pick from one of 3 songs. Barry Manilow's Trying to Get the Feeling Again, Luther Vandross' Superstar, and Seal's Kiss from a Rose. They announced it to all. There might have been 75 guys. And we had to partner up or group up, and we had to pick one of these 3 songs. And as soon as he announced the 3 songs, everybody jumped to Superstar. They all knew it from Luther Vandross, and they were like, oh, we're going to sing this one. We're going to sing this one. And I and my partner and I decided we were going to do Trying to Get the Feeling Again, the Barry Manilow song, because I knew it already. It was easy. And Nigel looked around and realized everybody was A, singing Superstar, and B, singing the easiest of the 3. He said, wait a second. Listen, I want to tell you this. When the judges come in, if you're singing the easiest song, they're probably going to mark you down for it. So you're going to impress them a lot more if you sing the harder songs. So when I tell you every group switched from Superstar to one of the other two, except Ruben stayed with Superstar, his group stayed with Superstar, and my partner and I, we were like, oh, well, if everybody else is, let's go do Superstar. The only two groups who sang Superstar were mine and Ruben's. Every single other person screwed up. They forgot the lyrics, they forgot the melody, and I mean, it was a train wreck of epic proportions. Everybody messed up except for Ruben's group and mine. And it was because Nigel knew in an instant, he was like, oh my God, they're going to be too good. I need them to be horrible. And when he would go, I don't know if you remember the kid on season 2, Keith, who sang, like a virgin. So he was behind me in line in Atlanta the whole time. He was like 2 behind me on the street. And by the time people got cut, he was right behind me. And so the first day we go in and we get through our first round, and the second round was Nigel. And we go in individually. Now, Nigel told me, you'll understand how shady this is. I sang Always and Forever. So I make it through. I'm going out. I'm sitting out waiting for the next, the paperwork to fill out. And Keith comes out and he's made it through Nigel also. And I remember hearing him sing on the street and I was thinking, what in the hell is going on? How did he make it through? And he said, oh, wow. I said, congratulations. I said, what did he say to you? He said, he told me I'm exactly what this competition needs. Well, he wasn't lying.
Oh, he wasn't.
He was Nigel knew right then what he was going to do with that guy. And he told me after I sang Always and Forever, this love song, he said, tomorrow, I want you to go in and I want you to sing that right to Paula. You sing that song directly to Paula and it'll be great. And I realized many years later, I was like, I know exactly what he was doing. He was thinking, okay, if he makes it through, great. If he doesn't, I'll totally make fun of the fact that he's gay and he's trying to sing to this girl. Like he knew, he was a brilliant producer. He knew what he was doing. He knew how to get good TV. And so he was the one pumping us up and, trying to get good TV. And yet we loved him.
Stockholm Syndrome. That's so funny. I mean, yeah. I know you said you didn't watch season 1, but it was impossible to get away from the fanfare and just how all-encompassing and pervasive American Idol was, how big Kelly Clarkson became.
During season 1?
Yeah, right?
Nobody watched that shit in season 1?
Season 2, popped off even.
There you go.
You guys...
When we popped was season 2.
Literally, you guys took it to a totally new level. But were you aware of that while it was happening? Like the pressure? You were so young. How did you deal with that?
Well, I appreciate you thinking I was young. We were actually the oldest season ever. The oldest finalists, oldest average age. I think Taylor Hicks beat us in the age department, beat Ruben in the winning age department, but we were the oldest season. Ruben, Kim, and I were all 24, which is ancient. It was the oldest you could be for the show, but we had no idea what was going on. And I say that to people a lot because we didn't know. I think that's one of the reasons that Ruben and I are still so close. We didn't go into it thinking it was going to change our life. Kelly didn't have a huge hit album until 2004. Her first album did fine, but it didn't even come out until the end of our season. So, we did not see the track record that the show could have. And so we all went into it thinking, oh, this will be a fun thing. We'll get on TV and then we'll go right back to our lives, right? And even during the show, we didn't know how big it was. We were the only season, I believe, to live in a house together. They put us in a house together. And they didn't have to cut the internet. Internet existed, but it was dial-up. So nobody was going down to that one little computer to check what was on the internet. They did not give us cable, so we didn't see the Entertainment Tonight stuff. When we were on the cover of People magazine, they brought us a copy so we could see it. Mm-hmm. But really, we were so sequestered. The only thing we saw every week was the 300 people in the audience, And I was convinced that all the signs they were holding had been made by the show and were being handed out for people to hold up. And so we didn't know that it was a big hit until we went home to our hometowns. The top 3 got flown back to our hometowns during the show. And I went home and was like, oh, wow. And we all got back on the plane the night, going back to LA afterwards. And we're talking about how people were excited. Ruben got a day, Ruben Studdard Day in Alabama. Kim got a proclamation in Tennessee. And we all just thought, man, our hometowns are really into this. We didn't realize it was the phenomenon it was until after the show was over.
Wow.
And we went on the Idol tour, and we were, in different cities beyond our hometowns, and we're like, holy crap, everywhere we go. Because we were just so cloistered, really, during the show that we didn't realize we had made it a hit. Ruben and I take credit for it.
Meanwhile, your finale drew nearly 40 million viewers. That's just insane to think. It was actually really funny to see you on the Kelly Clarkson show last year. She literally forgot that you came in as the runner-up on your season and literally thought you had won. But it still feels like you came out on top. I feel like a lot of people thought that you won or think that you won.
I'll let them think it. By all means, think it if you want to. Listen, Ruben and I say to folks that we feel really lucky that we did it when we did it for many, 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 many reasons, but not the least of which is that it was sort of the last time that America did something together.
Yes.
We were also in a year when the country went to war. We went into war in Iraq while we were on the show, which I think brought people together at the time a little bit more. In later seasons, obviously the first 4 seasons or 5 seasons or so, we had not moved to streaming yet. But slowly the country fragmented, right? To where the internet came out and people were watching just YouTube, or people were on their smartphones, or people were on their social media at some point and streaming. And so we were sort of the last time that America did something together. You couldn't get 40 million viewers on something now because everybody's busy watching Netflix, right? Or something else. Netflix could get it, but nobody else could. TV doesn't get it, right? And so I think that we now in the later years, the world fragmented. And when Ruben went and did his stuff, if you listen to the station that Ruben's music is on, if you listen to the R&B station, he was far bigger than me, right? If you listen to the pop station, I might have appeared that way. And so I don't think that I came out on top or did any better necessarily. I just happened to be in your bubble and
really
he's in
good.
Somebody else's bubble. And he's been touring for 20 years, solid, successful in his bubble, and I'm in a different one.
That's a really great way to put it. You brought up Ruben. We would love to talk about your relationship, your friendship. You've been friends for over 20 years. You toured together. You appeared on The Masked Singer together. What makes your friendship with Ruben so special, and what else is in the works for this dynamic duo?
Well, nothing has ever been in the works. Everything we've done together has happened because we both happen to be free. And one of us he said, you want to tour together back in 2010? I was like, okay, sure. And I said, 2018, I had not performed in a long time. And I was thinking, let's do something. And I said, do you want to do a Christmas show on Broadway? And bam, we did it. And then he suggested this last tour. Masked Singer came about because we happened to be on that tour at the time and we were together. And so that worked out. I think it works because one, like I said before, we went into that process not looking at it as a competition with each other. We didn't know what the stakes were. We didn't realize what was at stake at the end of it. And I think that only really happened in our season, maybe in the first one. But, as soon as Fantasia came in with Jennifer Hudson and LaToya London and Diana Gar, they knew what was at stake. They had seen how 40 million people had watched. And every subsequent season, when I've gone and visited the set or whatnot, you definitely feel a real sense of competition. They're not at each other's throats or anything, but you can feel that sense of competition. We never had that in our season at all, but amongst nobody. And when we went back for the Fox finale, 2015 or so, they brought everybody back. And Ruben and I were shocked to talk to other winners and finalists who had not seen or spoken to each other since. And both of us were looking at each other and went, really? Because we constantly stay in touch. And Kim Locke was with us there. And it's just that sort of, it was weird to us. And I really think we are. And the showrunner of Idol now, she was an associate producer when we were on the show. And she's been there the whole time. And the guy who let me sing a second song, he's still there. The two of them are the only ones who've been there from the beginning. And she says, yeah, most of them aren't necessarily close. Ruben and I are the only we're the weirdos who became friends and stayed friends. And I think also because we're so different, we don't have expectations of each other. He doesn't expect me to understand anything about college football. And I don't expect him to know what Broadway show's the hit this year. You know what I mean? And I think that helps in friendships, right? It's when you have expectations of people and they don't meet them, that's when it upsets you, right? When you don't go into something with an expectation, it's easier.
Sage advice. So if you could go back and give little 2003 Clay one piece of advice, what would it be?
I don't think I would. And I say that because, stuff worked out, right? There was a lot of rough stuff in there too. And I got a lot of crap from tabloids, and I was the punchline of many a joke. But if you change one thing, you've seen sliding doors, you change one thing and other things that you love don't happen, right? So I don't know that I would want to change anything, even the bad stuff, because I think I'm better for it. We talked about critiques that Simon gave me. I think even punchlines and things that felt like they were painful at the time or that I was embarrassed about, I don't think I'd want to change it. I mean, I guess the easiest thing for me to do would be like, oh, I wish I'd come out sooner. I don't, because the path that I was on meant that I had an opportunity to have a child with a friend, and I've got a great kid now because of it. So I don't think I'd want to change anything. Sometimes I feel like people who think they would go change something are forgetting that there's a lot of stuff in everybody's life, even people who are depressed and feel incredibly despondent. There's something every day that you would not want to get rid of. And if you get rid of the bad stuff or you change the way you handle something, you might not have those things.
What a great reminder for all of us.
Seriously.
I love that answer. So, Clay, we'd love to ask you, you kind of mentioned this earlier in one of your responses, which is kind of funny, that moment when you feel like you popped, when you felt like, oh my gosh, I made it. You referenced earlier coming back from your hometown. You were like, wow, they're really into it. But it wasn't until after Idol was over that you were like, oh my gosh. Was it during the Idol era? Was it later with your solo stuff? What was that moment for you?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I could pick just one, frankly. I mean, I'm sitting here as you're talking about it thinking, I don't know that I have still. You know what I mean? You know, when the first album came out and it sold very well, I felt like that was a validation that this was not just the show, right? The first album came out, it sold, I think it might have gone platinum. I don't know. There's little moments everywhere, like singing at the World Series, which I'm not a sports person at all, but like that was kind of a big deal. It felt kind of cool. Being on Broadway for the first time, having my own show on Broadway, you know, for the first time years later. There's a whole bunch. But I will say the first time so I mentioned how when we went back to our hometowns, we realized, oh, people are watching this show. But the day, both Ruben and I would have the same answer, I think, for the time that we realized, oh my God, this is bigger than just our hometowns. And it's right after Idol, we both got flown to New York for the press run, right? And we had a night off early on, and we both wanted to go see Frenchie Davis, who had been in our early rounds on Idol and had gotten put off and was in Rent on Broadway. And so we both got tickets to go see Rent, and we didn't really think too much of it. We did have security with us, but we got tickets, and we just both went and sat down in our seats. And getting into the theater to go see the show was a lot. Everybody saw us, wanted pictures and whatnot. But what's crazy is when the lights went off and the curtain closed, everybody in the house was still turning around, taking pictures of us as the performance was happening. And so they had to stop the show and move us to a balcony box to be able to restart the show, which, I mean, in years of being in New York, I've never seen that happen before. I had never seen it happen since. And so I think that was the moment when they had to stop a Broadway show and move us because we were causing too much of a scene by just sitting there, that we realized, oh my God, even New Yorkers care about this? They don't care about anything. New Yorkers don't watch TV. So that was probably the moment when we realized, wow, this is big.
Wow. You mentioned your debut album, Measure of a Man, and you said you thought it did pretty well. It did very well. It peaked at #1, so definitely went platinum. And your lead single, Invisible, is such an incredible pop song. I've heard a lot of musicians maybe tire playing their big hits over and over. Has that song ever gotten old for you?
Oh, I'm sure at some point it has. I mean, it's not now because I stopped performing for many years. And I find it interesting. There's a nostalgia for it that I don't think I understood until recently. One of the biggest dance DJs in the world, really, Dave All Day, did 2 remixes of it. And I remember thinking, really? That's an interesting thing to do, but okay, I'm game. Let's go for it. And seeing the reaction to those and people saying, oh my God, this was my song, this was my jam, whatever. It made me realize in that period, in 2003, like I said, so much of the radio was R&B and hip hop. I know Ruben and I did a 20th anniversary tour for our 20th anniversary of Idol, and we wanted all the music that people listened to as they were walking into the theater before the show and at intermission. We wanted it all to be from 2003. And we had to kind of cheat on it a little bit because so much of the song. R. Kelly was all over the charts then. R. Kelly, 50 Cent, and then the pop stuff was very grungy, like I mentioned, Avril, Fifi, JoJo had a hit back then, and now she's obviously back. But so I think Invisible in 2003 was sort of one of the few sort of bubblegummy pop songs. Blast it and shout it with the car top back or whatever. And I think that's probably why it has some nostalgia for folks, because it fit into a pocket that I think we need and we get a lot of nowadays, but we didn't get as much of back in those mid-aughts.
Yes. Clay, it's an incredible song. You sing it so beautifully. There's a key change that I would die for, and it is a piece of art, honestly. But yes. So you have a fan group, Clay Aiken fans, Claymates. They're known for being particularly devoted. What was that like? You have your own fan base name. Like, how cool is that?
Somebody told me recently that they were one of the first named groups, which I still think I need to go fact check. But they named themselves. I didn't have anything to do with it. And in fact, I resisted it for a while and then I trademarked it. But it was interesting. I used to tell people, listen, if we had put them on finding Osama bin Laden, they would have found him so much faster because they knew everywhere I was. We had a new drummer join the band. And the next night, they had his master's thesis from college printed out. I mean, these people were all over everything. It's interesting. I think there's Claymates who were incredibly enthusiastic. We'll say enthusiastic. There are a lot of people who I think are fans but don't fit into the Claymate bucket. And so I take them, whether they call themselves Claymates or Clay fans or turnips, I don't care what they call themselves. As long as they come around, I'm happy.
Has social media kind of changed the artist-fan relationship?
I don't know. I don't know how to do social media.
Okay.
I'm learning. Like I said, I stepped away for a long time. My kid's now grown and not only doesn't need me, but doesn't want me around. And so I'm tiptoeing back into performing. And I got an Instagram in maybe 2015 simply because I wanted my name.
Right.
So nobody else could have my name. And I'm not a good user of it. So I've been trying to get a little bit better about it and trying to learn it. And I'm still trying to learn it. I don't understand it very much, but I'm doing my best. I'm not good at coming up with things to post.
You did a really funny post like 2 days ago about your visit with your son.
It was only luck.
It was good.
I happened to have some obnoxious teenagers around me and I could use them. But if I have to come up with it on my own, I'm just screwed. So I'm working on it. If anybody has any ideas, please send them my way.
Okay. Well, I thought that one was very funny. But we have a couple Claymates, Clay fans, turnips, whatever we're calling them, that are listeners. And they really wanted us to ask you about an infamous shirt tug you would do back in the day when performing Invisible. What was that about?
Being tired of the song, that I am tired of. But
okay.
The shirt tug. So I honestly don't know how it started. I sang Invisible on the Idol tour because it was the one song that we knew was going to be the single. The album was not for a few months, but that was like the single. Ruben sang Sorry 2004 also. And the first night of the tour was in St. Paul, Minnesota at the Excel Center where I don't know what their hockey team is called.
Wild. Minnesota Wild.
Minnesota Wild, okay. And since we had practiced there, we had done all our rehearsals there, they gave me a hockey jersey. And I wore it during Invisible. And I guess at some point during that song, what is it? Oh, if Hearts Were Unbreakable. On Hearts Were Unbreakable, I tugged my shirt. And I guess it became something that people told me to do it again. And so I did it a few times. And in every city subsequent to that, they gave me the jersey of the hockey team that played in that arena. And so it sort of became a thing. And now, if I don't do it, people get very upset. And I am 47 years old, y'all.
It's so funny. I looked it up on YouTube to kind of get a sense of what people were talking about, and I found it. I saw
because it's there. Because I think I had to do it. I mean, I didn't have to do anything, but I think I pretty much did it every time. If Hearts Were Unbreakable, isn't it? Hearts Were. I think that's where it is. I haven't sung it live in a long time, but I feel like if I did it, if I was wearing a tuxedo, I'd have to tug it, which I just find hilarious.
Hilarious.
So you mentioned you're a dad now. You have a teenage son. How has fatherhood changed your perspective? Like on your career, you took some time off also just to focus on family, which is so admirable. What's next now that he's a teenager and he doesn't want anything to do with you, to use your own words?
Right? I mean, it does it certainly gives you perspective on all the times that you got ticked off at your parents and you realize, oh my God, I am them now. Very much so. When he was younger, he was not at all, well, he's still not impressed by anything I do. That's for sure. But so last year we did Celebrity Family Feud against his uncle, David Foster, and his aunt, Kat McPhee. How weird is that? A dad who came in second and an aunt who came in second. And he turned 16 right when it aired. So his mother and I discussed it and we thought, you know what, we've kept him completely out of, no one had ever seen him. And he's 16, he wants to do it, so we'll let him do it. And he did it, and he acted like he was cool. He didn't care, but he enjoyed the attention from it. So he's gotten to an age now where when he was younger, not only was he not impressed when I was performing when he was really young, he wasn't impressed by any time I was in the news or in the press when he was in elementary or middle school. He's gotten to an age now where I think his friends notice it and they think it's fun, which means so the post of him and his friends was largely to get them excited and make him feel kind of. So I find as I'm getting older and he's getting older, I feel like I need to try to do some things to impress him more than anything else. So that has something to do with it. And I miss it. When Ruben and I went on tour together, it was sort of because I had stepped away to be available for Parker, but also to do some other things that I had interest in. And in 2022, I had really pretty much decided I have no interest in those other things anymore. And around that time, Ruben was like, well, I'm about to go out on an anniversary tour. You want to do it? And I thought, okay, why not? And we just had such a great time and I enjoyed it. And I realized I missed performing a little bit more than I thought I did. And so it's all sort of timing out well and right. Parker's old enough, he wants me out of the way. I have missed it a little bit more. Ozempic is a thing, so I was able to lose some weight. It's all working out perfectly, so I'm headed back.
Amazing. I would love to talk about music with these last couple minutes that we have. You know, you talked about the Dave Auday remix. You released Christmas music. You did a Father's Day, Taylor's version, Clay's version, re-release of Measure of a Man. What's the inspiration behind this, and what can fans expect next from you?
So the Christmas album was largely just because I finished that tour with Ruben and I thought, you know what, I want to go back out and do something again. And I love doing my Christmas tour. Those were always my favorite shows to do. But, you know, that Christmas album is 20 years old. And so to go back out and just do it, I thought I needed a little bit more. Christmas music seemed easy to do. Ron Fair was able to work on it, and that was exciting for me because he's a legend. And so the Christmas album was largely just to kind of be able to do some more Christmas shows, but I took too long to get it done. So it was too late to do them last year. And then the other stuff, the Measure of a Man remake, the Invisible remixes. Yeah. I mean, partially because I knew I wanted to do some stuff again, but I was not sure I wanted to jump right in. I wanted to take some time to figure out what I really wanted to do. You know, the first album that I put out, every song was practically chosen for me almost before Idol was over. Wow. I mean, I came off of Idol and the songs were handed to me. I know I had Invisible the next day. I know I had several of them the next day. They were already chosen. This Is the Night was already chosen, obviously. I would say that they had given me all the songs within 2-3 weeks of the show being done. So I wasn't involved in any of them. Take what we give you and be done. And I always thought, okay, well, my next album, I'll get to choose some more. And I didn't, because Clive decided I was going to do a Christmas album. So I got to be involved in choosing those, but they were not necessarily originals. And then the next album, he wanted me to do some covers. So coming back to music, knowing that I'm going to put out some new stuff, I like kind of reinterpreting old songs sometimes too. So I'm sure I'll do some covers, but I realized I want to be able to do some original stuff too. And I want to be able to take the time to pick the right ones, since I've not barely gotten to do that in 20 years. I did one album in 2008 that I was able to do that with. And I knew it was going to take some time to pick the right songs, but I didn't want to not do anything. And my new manager said, why don't you do something about your son and the idea for redoing Measure of Man and kind of making it about fathers. And I thought, that'd be fun. That'd be easy and fun to do. And then Dave Auday came around and wanted, so these were just sort of opportunities to do something interesting, kind of different, to say, hey, I'm working on some stuff, but here's some appetizers in the meantime. I'm not doing a dance album. Don't get confused. But I do love working with Dave all day. I like the energy of what he made. And I know that some of the stuff I want to do a little. Invisible's the only energetic, poppy, up-tempo song I've ever recorded. Isn't that crazy?
So would you be...
I imagine that there'll be something a little more, something that you can go to the gym with.
Ooh.
Or blast in your car coming sometimes within the next 6-7 months. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
I don't have it. Don't get too excited. I haven't found it yet. I'm working on finding it, but that's something I want to do.
6-7 months, hopefully, loose deadline. That includes something that we can bop around in our cars too.
You can bop around. I will not be tugging my shirt for, but you're welcome to bop around in the car too.
Oh, Clay, that's so exciting. I think we are so excited to hear that. All your fans are so excited to hear that. We just would love to hear your voice on some songs again.
Well, that's the plan. Now that the Ozempic is kicked in and I can fit back in my clothes from Idol, I'm going to bust out that red leather jacket. I'm kidding. I'm not going to wear the red leather jacket from Idol.
Please do. You look amazing. So glad to hear you're doing so well. We obviously want to be respectful of your time. So we just appreciate you so much. And thank you so much for joining us. We're obviously huge fans of yours. So this was an incredible opportunity for the both of us.
Thank you very much. I had fun.
That was our conversation with Clay.
Clay Aiken.
I know. Mary, I didn't want to tell him this because I didn't want to come off as like a super duper fangirl, but I saw him and Ruben on the American Idol tour.
Oh my gosh. You and your sister each had a copy of his CD, right?
No, we would fight over Clay versus Ruben, and we would cancel each other's votes out on American Idol. It was intense in our house.
You each got one of his CDs because you had to each have one.
Yeah, there was no...
I mean, share it.
We loved Clay Aiken in our household. Like, he is a very big deal to me. When I told my sister we were talking to him, she freaked out. Like, I showed you our text, Mary. She was like, no way. She might be the original Claymate. Like,
we have a few Claymate friends. Shout out Jade that I know will be listening to this. I mean, he's someone that like my dad knows who he is.
Everyone knows.
You know, like he really is a staple of pop culture, an icon. Yes.
Couldn't be nicer.
It was so funny to just hear his take on everything and his sense of humor and just everything was.
I loved what he said about him and Ruben, you know, basically that there was room for both of them at the time that they both came up. Like, that's why it didn't feel like competition. I love their friendship. That is just so special. I mean, any friendship that lasts that long is really unique and special. But the fact that they literally went on this crazy rocket ship ride together and they're still collaborating and doing fun things. I just love that so much.
Love that. And just so excited we got him to admit that there is new music coming. New music for us to bop to, which really caught my attention. Hopefully within the next 6 or 7 months. We're going to have to check in with him if we don't have anything by then. Make sure we're still on it.
I'm really excited. Invisible is just one of those songs that, like, sing it if you know it, and you know it, you know? You cannot not bop. So I hope that we get some more bops from Clay Aiken because, man, he's got the perfect voice for it.
Beautiful voice. We're so
I'm
grateful.
like freaking out a little.
I know. He had a #1 album on the Billboard charts. Like, that is pretty iconic.
I also just like respect so much that he took a step back. We didn't get around to asking him this, but he was a UNICEF ambassador for several years. He has done so much for
Broadway too.
Broadway.
Yeah.
I mean, what can't the man do? Like, I love that he used his platform for good and then he took a step back to focus on parenting. And now he's like, oh, you know, I'm enjoying it again. It just feels so authentic.
True.
And so just real. And gosh, as if I couldn't love Clay Aiken more.
What did you guys think of this episode? Let us know.
Make sure to follow us at When They Popped Pod on Instagram and TikTok. And if you're a Patreon subscriber, we're always posting fun content over there that you can't get anywhere else.
Thanks so much for listening.
Bye.